Massilia was a free LC faction that came with the Black Sea DLC and patch 16. Not the most powerful of factions. They have some nice options available to them. They are a Celto-Hellenic faction. That is apparent in their roster. Their Massilian Cavalry have a good charge bonus for their price, very good melee attack for their price. The melee defense and health and morale is very good as well. The only downside to this unit is that it is only light melee cavalry, so it doesn't have a lot of mass to throw around, and it's 35 armor. But it's still able to defeat superior enemy cavalry. It can defeat Egyptian cavalry, depending on the circumstance. It can defeat citizen cavalry, it can defeat equites, it can defeat the Gallic light horse as well. So it's a very Celtic light horse. It's a very cost-effective light cavalry unit that can be useful against enemy skirmishers, but it really shines in cavalry blobs if you're able to stop enemy cavalry from getting charge bonuses on them and then getting in charges with the Massilian Cavalry. Still a very vulnerable unit, so they need to be kept away from missiles and preferably from infantry with spears. The Massilian Hoplites have a nice charge bonus, a decent amount of armor, health and morale is good. They have a melee attack that is decent for their price range, and their weapon damage is only 30, but 8 of that is armor piercing, which is very nice for a spear unit. These units can do well against low tier and mid tier infantry, just don't expect them to do well against good swords. They don't have the expert charge defense bonus, so these units are going to suffer quite a bit against enemy units that have a high charge bonus, but they have a nice charge bonus of their own. Then we have the Celtic warriors, very good on the charge, useful for engaging other low tier infantry. They can even do some damage to mid tier mid-tier hoplites and spear units. Axe warriors, cheap units, decent melee attack, decent armor, lowish charge bonus, but what sets them apart is the armor penetration they can get on their axes. Keep these guys away from getting charged by good enemy infantry, and preferably tie down the infantry before you charge in the axe warriors, so other units can tank damage for the axe warriors, and the axe warriors can get the time they need to do damage with their armor penetrating axes. The thorax swords are known units. Your basic mid-tier sword unit that can hold for quite some time with good defensive stats. Not really good offensive stats with only 18 charge bonus. Then we have spears, and you have a lot of decent spears with Massilia. You have your Levy Freemen, you know those from other factions, you know the Light Hoplites from other factions. Their special unit is the Massilian Thureos spears, and high melee attack for being a Thureos unit, low weapon damage, good bonus versus large, an extremely good charge bonus, decent melee defense, armor, health and morale. They also have square, of course, so if you're able to skirmish with these units and then you're able to charge in, preferably in the rear or flanks of enemy units, or even into enemy cavalry blobs, they can do massive amounts of damage, because a 20 bonus versus large and a 30 charge bonus, that's going to really hurt enemy cavalry units. Standard hoplites and the Massilian hoplites, nothing special in the skirmishing department aside from these. The Celtic skirmishers are pretty tanky skirmishers with 40 armor and good shields. The Peltas, of course, are even more tanky. The mercenary Gallic hunters have 150 range and the snipe ability, and something to keep in mind with the snipe ability is that different units have, and they also have guerrilla deployment, so they can deploy outside of the normal zone of deployment. The snipe ability is pretty interesting because it will allow them to potentially fire and remain hidden, which means that retaliation against these units is going to be impossible if you don't see them. But different enemy units have different scouting skills, so some units are poor scouts and some units are excellent scouts, and that will change how the distance they are able to expose hidden units at. So depending on if your opponent has a lot of good scouting units, these units can hide and do a lot of damage without being seen. Can be difficult to use, but if you're able to use it, they can be deadly units. Still pretty expensive for what they're able to do. Then we have the Hippeus Lancers, nothing much to say about those. They have the standard citizen Massilian light horse combination. We talked about the Massilian Cavalry and the general's options. Then we have Skirmisher and Tarentine. I'm not even going to mention those because I've mentioned them in so many other videos. As for builds for Massilia, well, you have a few different options. You can go for, let's say you go for 4 Massilian Cavalry, with one of them being your general. This is going to be a Massilian melee spam. You're going to have 6 Axe Warriors, and then you're going to have 4 Celtic Warriors. Now you can upgrade some of this to be a more powerful combination of units. So for example, if you want to take out 2 of the Massilian Cavalry, then put your general on a Hippeus to make him a bit more durable. You can also bring an additional Hippeus now. You still have some funds to use, so if you want some, for example, if you want some skirmishing support, you can go for 2 mercenary Gallic hunters. But this is a straight up melee spam. If you want to go for a more balanced type of Massilian build, you can for example go for a 2 Massilian hoplites in the center, 4 thorax swords, 2 axe warriors, 4 Celtic warriors, a few Massilian Thureos, and then your Massilian cavalry. Take out some. If you take out the Massilian Thureos, if you want to, or if you take out the Massilian hoplites, if you want to make room for some more skirmishers, you can. But as Massilia, I really like to see Massilia just tank up on the hoplites and on the swords and on the axes and go for melee rushes, because it's going to be difficult for Massilia to use their skirmishers to good effect, because they are low tier and not super effective. They have some skirmishing capabilities with the Massilian Thureo spears, so these guys can handle elephants and chariots if you are aware of where you put them. If you are in a situation where you, for example, have, let's say you brought 6 of the Massilian Thureo spears, 6 thorax swords, a few axes, then it's going to be very difficult for the enemy to use their elephants against you, because tying down all of these units with infantry or cavalry when you have so many infantry units of your own, it's going to be very difficult. So Massilia is not a super strong faction. It can be interesting to play around with the various combinations. You can bring some interesting builds that give you options, different options on the battlefield. That can be fun to play around with, but Massilia is not the strongest faction by far. What they can do, most other factions can do better. Still, they can be a lot of fun to play with, mostly because of their variety and their mix of Celto-Hellenic units. So, if you want to have some interesting and possibly surprising units to use, like having the 30 charge bonus Massilian Thureos coming in and wrecking units, and the mercenary Gallic hunters being able to snipe and remain unseen, then Massilia can be very fun, and it can also be a nasty surprise for enemy cavalry being charged by the light Massilian cavalry and being defeated. So that's it for Massilia. Thanks for watching. See you again on the battlefield.